Hey everybody. So we all know the story of the Good Samaritan, right? It's probably the most famous parable in Luke's Gospel. You see, when Jesus is asked about the meaning of the word neighbor, he tells his disciples about a man who was traveling in the desert when he was robbed and beaten and left for dead. After being passed by a few times by people of his own culture, he is finally helped by a Samaritan who was supposed to be his enemy. And this Samaritan puts him up in a hotel much like this one. Pretty generous dude. And we all know the story, and it might have gotten a little stale and lost its impact since we've heard it so much, right? So let me give you a little bit of a more modern example that illuminates the same theme. There was once a little boy who decided he wanted to find God. He knew it would probably be a long trip, so he decided to pack a lunch. 4 packs of Twinkies, and 2 cans of root beer. He set out on his journey and went a few blocks until he came to a park. On one of the park benches sat an old woman looking at the pigeons. The little boy sat down next to her and watched the pigeons too. When he grew hungry, he pulled out some Twinkies. As he ate, he noticed the woman watching him, so he offered her one. She accepted it gratefully and smiled at him. He thought she had the most beautiful smile in the world. Wanting to see it again, he opened a can of root beer and offered her the other one. Once again, she smiled that beautiful smile. For a long time, the two sat on that park bench, eating Twinkies, drinking root beer, smiling at each other, and watching the pigeons. Neither said a word. Finally, the little boy realized that it was getting late and he needed to go home. He started to leave, took a few steps, turned back, and gave the woman a big hug. Her smile was brighter than ever before. When he arrived home, his mother noticed that he was happy, but strangely quiet. "What did you do today?" she asked. "Oh, I had lunch in the park with God," he said. But before his mother could reply, he added, "You know, she has the most beautiful smile in the world." Meanwhile, the old woman left the park and returned to her home. Her son noticed something different about her. "What did you do today, Mom?" he asked. "Oh, I ate Twinkies and drank root beer in the park with God." And before her son could say anything at all, she added, "You know, God's a lot younger than I imagined." Now, what does all of this tell us about how we should act towards our neighbors of other cultures? The message of both of these stories is that everybody is our neighbor, perhaps especially those who are of different ethnicities or different genders, different religions, different ages, different sexual orientations, or different lifestyle choices, and even different political parties. Culture does not divide us. Culture gives us an opportunity to be a true neighbor.
We know that there's always tomorrow. Lean on me when you're not strong.
Now, I want you to reflect a little bit on these 2 questions. First of all, who in your life has crossed cultural boundaries by being a neighbor to you? And secondly, to whom have you been a neighbor? Take a few minutes to write your responses in your journals. Then, be prepared to share some of your thoughts with the class.